Well, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so a very warm welcome to all of us today on the panel here in the meeting, and everyone who's going to be watching this. Welcome to this series on adolescent well-being. Right, so emotional well-being for adolescents is something that is extremely important, and we felt that not enough conversations are happening around that. And before we jump into today's discussion and I introduce today's speaker, I just want to set a little bit of context around what we're going to talk about. So, I feel we've had so much that's being said about returning to work for professionals, for adults, life in pandemic. But what we are hearing is mostly the adult perspective. You don't hear enough being said by adolescents or for adolescents, for children, right? And I was thinking about this earlier today, and what came to me is that exploring the world, developing a sense of industry, a sense of agency over the world around them, developing social skills, empathy, developing a sense of identity. These are things that are fundamental for the psychosocial development at this age, between 10 to 19, let's say. And if you see that all these things have been majorly, massively disrupted during the pandemic, and it continues to be so. And we hear complaints, but we don't really hear their stories. Right. We also listen to a lot of parents who come up with the challenges that they are facing. So in this series, we intend to bring out all of that. We want to bring out the challenges faced by various people, adolescents and parents. We want to be able to create a space for them to share, discuss what's going on with them, find comfort in conversations. And we want them to have, a sense of guidance through our expert psychologists, right? So on that note, let me tell you who we have with us today. We have Anagha Mazumdar Pandit. Anagha has a master's in clinical psychology. She's a parent herself, and she has been practicing as a psychologist for over 12 years. And today, Anagha is going to take us through the different facets of going back to school. Right. So a warm welcome to you, Anagha, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Debasmita. It's a pleasure to be here and to be speaking on the real hot topic today, that is back to school. I will take you through some slides that we've created, and I'm sure at the end of it, we'll be on a better footage to understand what we are doing and where we are going with the pandemic, moving back and forth. Going back to school is a real struggle, right? And there are a lot of challenges that we face, specifically after these 2 years of having sat at home and worked and been in that comfort zone, basically, to be able to manage, multitask, and do a lot of other things. Initially, yes, we were a little tensed and worried, but as we settled into this new normal, as they call it, we all became very, very happy, very, very adjusted around the new routines that we had. And we realized that we were able to do a lot more when the commute timings and other things were taken off. With that, I would like to ask you all, whoever is here today, to just list out the top 10 challenges that you think you will face while sending your children back to school now after 2 years gap. Debasmita, would you like to share something here?
Yes, absolutely. I think, while I am working remotely, I'm working from home, but adjusting to the new school routine itself is a challenge for all of us. So waking up at a certain time, ensuring there's dabba and all of that, that seemed a little bit of a challenge in the initial week. But I think one of the things that stays with me, one of the first concerns were around safety and the number of kids sitting together, and if anybody had sniffles or fever or something. So that was the first thing.
Correct.
And so also, so that's one. Another thing that comes to my mind is when they stopped going to school, they were 2 years younger. They were in a different headspace, a different, sort of socially very different. And now they are very different. So the dynamics that would happen in school, whether there's bullying or not, whether how they are going to adjust to this new environment, because they haven't actually interacted with other kids for a long time. So those were some of my concerns.
Correct. So after 2 years of social starvation, a sudden social interaction with their peers who have also grown. 2 years is not a very small time, specifically for developing kids. Developing children, 2 years makes a huge, huge difference. Given that, we also know that due to the online schooling and social starvation, no physical activity classes, and all of that, there has been some learning gap also. And there might be some gaps in their conceptual learning also. For younger children, they might have not developed their writing skills or spelling skills to an extent that they would otherwise have if they had been going to school. We all know homeworks, assignments, written work has suffered in the last 2 years. Um, it is nobody's fault. The whole system was functioning in a way that these skills were not really required much. And the skills that you keep sharpening only become, sharper, and they develop. So there has been a little gap in skill development also, skills pertaining to different children at different age levels. Having said that, I will just put down these broad 10 points that we are going to struggle with once we go back to work, right? There will be time management issues because now we cannot predict the traffic. Earlier on, we also got used to less traffic on the roads, by the way, in the last 2 years, because we could go to places much sooner than otherwise. Anxiety around crowds and contamination, because we've been telling our kids for so long, wash your hands, don't touch, don't do this, don't do that. They might have these anxious thoughts when they use the school washrooms or use the school staircases and all of that. Risk perceptions might be different. For some, parents might tell the children, it's all right, you've got to learn to live with COVID. While there might be some others on the other side of the continuum saying that you are still not vaccinated, you have to use your masks, you cannot share your tiffins. And there might be these confusing signals or confusing messages that the child comes back home with and ask the parents that, you said this, but he does this and she does that. So it's going to be a lot of confusing messages around the child. There will be less family time, and we've somehow got used to spending that quality time with parents. And now children may not have that. Academic expectations, not everyone may realize that there will be these gaps. 2 years ago, the child may be very good at writing or imaginative writing, and 2 years later, he might not show that kind of progress, and the teacher might not be very considerate towards it. As much as they try to be, it may not always be possible. And we understand that perspective also as parents. There might be adjustment issues, getting up, going to school, adjusting with their old friends. They may not get along with that group now after 2 years because everyone has grown, everyone has changed. Again, like Debasmita said rightly, safety protocols followed by others, followed by the school, how much cleanliness they will be maintaining, how many times the bus is going to be cleaned. We do not know that. All of that is not in our hands, but it is definitely something that concerns us. There will be worries about illnesses and their transmissibility. So some parents may feel it's a small cold, the child can go to school with a mask, while the other parents might feel, oh, he coming to school is a threat to my child now. So there might be those issues also and worries which will, add to our stress levels. Working from office, now you can't be plugging in your, headphones in your ears and doing something else, maybe ironing your child's clothes or cooking up a dish. because that multitasking was possible at home. It may not be happening from office. You may have to be there. Or you could doodle, yawn, and stretch while your teammates were talking about a particular issue. But now, when you're sitting right in front of them, you may have to conceal all of that, and that is also a little bit out of our comfort zones now. And very rightly said by Debasmita, managing the box routines. I think and all the mommies that I have met in the recent past have this. Oh God, the menu planning, the dabba planning. It's a big deal. Yes, it is a huge deal. And though we talk about it in a humorous way, it does add a lot to our stress right at the beginning of our day because we are worried about their nutrition. We are worried about whether I'm giving the right quantity, the right kind of food. And then, this whole guilt around mommy guilt around not being able to make that particular lunchbox or that particular thing that the child asked me to, amidst all of my own routine and work. So, broadly speaking, these are the top 10 challenges that we will be facing, and let us move ahead to see how we can address them. So, Debasmita, can I ask you to do a small activity with us? All of y'all, in fact. I see quite a few people have joined the meeting. It would be
Joined.
great if you can all do it. So, I'm going to ask you to draw your digestive system, the diagram of your digestive system with your right hand. As much as you remember, no pressure. This is not a test. And you get 30 seconds for it.
Done.
Done? Great.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not going to ask you to show it, not here.
Please don't.
But I'm going to give you another task. With your non-dominant hand, that is your left hand, draw a
Okay.
simple car. A simple car.
Okay.
Finding it difficult?
It looks hideous, but I did it.
Finally, you did it. Okay, just tell me which was out of your comfort zone.
Definitely the car.
Definitely the car, right? So I gave you a more complex drawing to draw with your
Check in.
hand. Yes?
Um, I was saying I was just wanted to check in with the others if anyone else tried this. How did that go for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, I also had a similar experience where I knew how to draw a car, but it turned out to be very, very bad. But digestive system, it took me some time to recall what it looks like and then draw it, but still, it didn't look that appealing or accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you for sharing with us. So the point here that we want to make here is I gave you a more complex drawing to draw with your right hand. And comparatively, the left hand drawing was much simpler. Despite that, we found the simpler drawing more difficult because we were out of our comfort zone. Drawing with your left hand is not your everyday thing, it's not something that you're used to. But if I tell you this, that you can practice it for about 2 years and then show me how to draw a car with your left hand, you'll probably be a little more comfortable and the car won't look as hideous as it looks now. Right, Devasmita? So the point is when we transition from one habit into another habit or one zone into the another zone, that change is going to be hard. That change is going to be out of your comfort zone. And that's what we all are doing now. First, we moved in from that comfort zone to the new normal. And now the new normal goes back to the old normal, creating a ruckus in all our lives and making us, grapple for time and, everything else that we were so used to doing in the past 2 years. Having said that, why is this important? Why do we have to consider all of this? Because one thing is 2 years is a huge time, specifically for our children. The impact of the pandemic is huge. It is here to stay in our minds, in our habits, right? The versions may start becoming more transmissible and less severe, but we will always have that kind of anxiety or fear attached to it, because we'll always want to be more careful about something, because whatever we have seen in the last 2 years is quite intense, right? And even today, because of that, we're probably dealing with many intense stressors. We may have lost a spouse, we may have lost parents, we may have gone through very harrowing experiences when we were sick. We are now well, but those experiences have changed us, right? And physical and mental health is greatly being impacted. As a child psychologist, and I'm sure everyone from Manah over here and Debasmita will agree with me, that children are reporting headaches, backaches, eyesight issues because of the long exposure to screens. And there are mental health issues like broken self-esteem, anxiety issues, uh, fear of death in young children, fear that their parents will be taken away from them, separation anxiety, fear of abandonment is huge, and it is a huge problem. Mental health has almost reached pandemic proportions, just like the pandemic that we dealt with. So I would say, as an expert or as a professional, to seek professional and expert advice if you feel it is required. We don't allow our children to suffer a fever. We take them to a doctor. So why allow them to suffer from emotional issues when emotional coaches are available all around? So by all means, parents have the right to deal with their children's issues. But if you think that this is going a little overboard, or maybe we are not being able to get back to routines, or there are certain thoughts or emotions which are big and you find it difficult to deal with them, do seek professional advice, professional help, and you will see the difference. So, in the meantime, what can we do? Have a routine in place, which is very important. It is very easy to say have a routine in place. It is very difficult to implement it, right? Because all of us have this basic inertia. If I'm used to waking up at 7 a.m., I'm going to find it difficult to wake up at 5 a.m. So it's important that we run the routine for some days, get into those habits, and form them, give ourselves time to form those routines. Having certain basic rules in place. For example, in the context of going back to school, it could be packing your things a day previous, maybe at night, and then you don't ironing your dress, keeping it ready on a hanger so that you don't hustle around in the morning. Having gadget free zones in the house is also equally important, because those gadget free times and gadget free zones are going to provide you the opportunity to bond with your children, that which we could easily do when we were at home, but now that we're going to be spending more time outside, more time commuting, this is something that will give us the opportunity to bond together. It is also important for us to have contracts and dish out the consequences. So we must have some doable consequences. If I say I'm never going to send you to school, or I'm never going to wake you up from tomorrow, it's probably not happening. It's an empty threat. And empty threats will always add to your misery as parents. So have some consequences that are doable, that you will really do, and then reason out with your child why it was necessary and what happened because of his or her irresponsible behavior, so to say. And the last and the most important thing is to proactively manage big emotions. It is very likely that the children will come home with hearing horrendous stories from their peers about their peers, their friends in their, they may come back telling us stories, in the pandemic this happened, in the lockdown that happened. They may come home saying that, oh, that person sneezed and that person was sitting next to me, so I'm feeling very scared that I'm going to get his infection or her infection. So it's important for us to address these emotions, and we will go through it how we are going to be doing that a little later. But proactively handling big emotions is important, right? So shall we move ahead, Debasmita, or do you have anything to share?
I do have a few questions. There are a few questions that have come in, and I'll just share those questions with you. Sometimes I feel it's easy to tie in those questions with what you've already planned to speak about, right? So one of the questions is how to spend quality time with children while the workload is very heavy,
Right.
right? And another one that I have is, in these 2 years, many children have hit puberty and they have undergone significant changes when it comes to their appearances.
Right.
And while anyway, this phase is somewhat anxiety provoking, it makes you feel a little conscious. But when you see each other every day, I think it's easier to understand or grasp that acceptance is there, or that everyone is going through this. What I was noticing that happened was there was this anxiety about how they look because they haven't seen each other for so long, and someone's grown taller, someone has a mustache, someone's looking just so much older. So these things and how they are going to be perceived by their peers was something that took up a lot of I feel their headspace and worries. So these are two things, and how to handle that. So the two questions that I have for you. You can answer them now, or tie them with your presentation anyway. So
Okay, so I hope you will get the answers to these through the presentation, because I have put in certain things which will help you deal with these emotions or thoughts that the children come out with. Your first question was regarding how to
high
spend
workload.
time.
Yeah, how to spend
Yeah,
quality time when the workload's heavy.
right. So that the answer to that, the key to that, parents, is in the routine. I completely empathize with you that you might be very busy and it is very difficult. Sometimes you all have some awkward working hours also, which makes it very tough for you to spend that time with children. But the time that you go and wake your children up, or the time that you are putting them into the bed, are one of the better times to bond with them. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes only. If that is not possible, you could have something that follows a rhythm every
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays, every Sundays, every weekend, every Fridays, and reserve that bit of 30 to 45 minutes with your child. If that time is gadget free and is spent in having casual, fun conversations or playing board games, card games, etc., those could be your bonding times, and that will give the
Mm.
child a sense of being heard, being around people in the house. While it can be tough, it can only be achieved through repeated trying. And do not go back to blame yourself if you're unable to do that on a given day or in a given week. It's all right. Sometimes we have to prioritize our role as an employee. Sometimes we have to prioritize our role as a son, as a spouse, as a daughter, as a daughter-in-law, and sometimes you get the opportunity to prioritize your role as a parent. So optimize on those opportunities. And I'm sure 10 to 15 minutes in a day is not too much to ask if you're able to plan that properly according to your schedule and your children's schedules, because children also are quite busy these days. They have, very regimented day, and a lot of classes followed by each other. So I'm hoping there will be more light on this as we move forward. All right, so a timetable is essential. Children require specific designated time for various activities during the day. For older children, you all can involve the child in making the timetable. For teens, let them make the timetable while you do the, moving around a little bit kind of stuff. But for younger children, they do require specific designated, because they do not know how to use their activity, their free time. Having said that, children also require a window of free time where they are allowed to do whatever they want to do, so that they learn to engage themselves, they learn self regulation, and they learn to handle boredom. So, your timetable should have a balance of both activities that you tell your children to do, and activities that they should, imagine, create, and involve in that kind of imaginative play or whatever they feel like doing in that particular free time. Okay. Um, Having a timetable helps distribute time across all events, all activities evenly. So they are able to do screen time, they are able to do homework, they are able to do meal times, they are able to do some play time, outdoor play, indoor play, everything can be included. Nap times, if they like to have a nap in the afternoon. A routine must include all of this: meal times, nap times, play time, screen time, study time, and outdoor play, if possible. In certain cases, it is not possible. Some children are younger, we can't let them go out alone. There are safety issues. If it is raining outside, we can't go outside. So we've got to, navigate through these situations and find the right balance. And the child must be involved in making this timetable. So if you're able to do that, I'm sure you'll be able to squeeze in mommy time and daddy time also in this routine, right?
Right. I think, very, very well said, Anagha. I think routines help solve many of the problems,
Yes,
right? Around their spending quality time with their parents, or even managing the various things that a child should do for healthy development, playing, sleeping, studying, all of that. So, and it always amazes me how it's these little simple things that are so profound. They have such potential to,
absolutely.
right? So, yeah.
Having a great routine in place and being able to implement it without a
Mm-hmm,
lot of glitches is
mm-hmm.
actually a best tool towards positive disciplining.
Right,
If
right.
you want to
This actually
positively,
ties in to another question that came in, and I'll place it here for you as well. So somebody is asking that how to reduce screen time, because screen time, especially before bed, leads to going to bed late and then waking up late and so on and so forth. So I feel there's like a connection between what we're talking about and the question. So I thought I might as well just share that.
absolutely. Correct. And the answer to that question lies in the first point here. A structure in terms of rules is your best tool. So if you have handed your child a gadget, which was inevitable in the last 2 years, you could not have avoided it, give them a structure with it, give them a set of rules with it. I'm going to hand over the phone to you. You have turned 13. You're allowed to have your own Instagram account, but this time to this time will be your Instagram time. And at 8 p.m. or 8:30 p.m., you hand the phone in. You hand it in. I'm not going to take it from you. You don't have to submit it to me, but you will keep it in a designated place. And that designated place should have all the phones. If there is a phone call, parents can pick up the phone call. If there is a meeting, you can attend the meeting. But ensure that you also practice that your phones are in a common place and not in your bedrooms beside your head. First thing, it's not good for even us as adults, the radiations, and it will help model the correct kind of behavior for your child. And then I'm sure there will be no qualms about adhering to this rule that you have put in place. Be firm and assertive, be friendly, but you cannot be their friends. You are a parent, and that thin line of authority, that shadow of authority, needs to be pressed upon children until they can, take their own decisions of right and wrong, which sadly will not happen before they turn 23, because we all know that the frontal cortex, which is responsible for rational and logical reasoning, develops until they turn 23 or 24. But the brain can be moderated. We can create those neural connections by modeling the right kind of behavior and setting this structure in terms of boundaries and rules that they can, navigate
Mm,
themselves these situations. It is difficult, it's not easy, and we have to persist and not give up
right,
and have
right.
inches of patience, which is not easy at all. It's like braving a storm.
So true. But I feel, just emphasizing a little bit on the modeling bit, because that's so important. I think a lot of times we are tempted to scroll before we're going to bed, or, and that's fair. I mean, I'm tempted to do that myself. Maybe because that's the only time we have when you just want to sort of wind down. But and then we are telling the children, hey, don't do that, or let's try and set rules and routines and things like that. So modeling seems to be a very important aspect of all of this,
Right. Also, in
right?
terms of rules, the rules must be simple to be, followed. Like, do not see the screen before bedtime is still a vague rule. I
Mm,
would prefer do not take the phone to the bed. So if you want to use the phone, sit at the table or on the sofa, use your phone, put it in its designated place, and then you can go to your room. So automatically, the bed and the phone is mutually separated, and you will get a better chance to implement that rule. Even if you want to watch the screen or scroll down your phone, you've got to do it on the sofa and not take it to your bed.
absolutely. I think that's a very good one. I'm sure a lot of parents are going to relate to that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Also, going forward, like I said, be firm and assertive. We've got to assert our authorities. We can't become pleasers for children all the time. We can't please them all the time. So it's all right if your children reject you or are angry at you. They may not know you were angry at your parents, right, when you were young. And we did not like a lot of things that our parents did to us, but we end up doing the same things for our children, right? Pairing undesirable tasks with desirable ones is also something that helps. Homework first, followed by play, or assignment first, or reading first, followed by video game time. All of these things help. You can use these tiny things in your daily routine. It also gives the children a sense of fulfillment and motivates them to do the task, because they know I've got to read for 30 minutes and then I'm going to get that, video game time with my friends.
Also
Another,
delayed gratification, right? That is also something that ties into this, that you're delaying something desirable and teaching them maybe a little bit of tolerance.
right, correct. Grit, basically, which is an
Absolutely.
entirely, uh, a very beautiful life skill to learn and very essential to success. Grit. So you
Mhm.
should be able to wait and then get that gratification. Yes. Emphasizing the effort is equally important. Sometimes we end up only emphasizing or appreciating the result of the performance. We appreciate the painting that my child has made, but do not sometimes appreciate the effort. I must notice that little things. Oh, I notice you have put the paints away properly. I notice you have cleaned up after you worked. It's such a nice thing to see a table that is so organized. That kind of things also, um, it is like attending to plants that you want to grow in your garden. If you water the weeds will grow. So do not water the undesirable tasks. Water the desirable tasks, reinforce them, and you will see the change in your children. Also, as I always say, consequences must be dished out. So if you say, I'm going to cut down on your TV time because you've delayed in finishing your homework, or because you've not taken a bath today, do it. There will be a temper tantrum, there will be a meltdown, there will be a lot of energy that will be lost in calming that little storm down, but it is worth it. Because when you say a no, it must be a no until the very end. If we hand in what the child wants after a tantrum, the message that we give the child is throw a tantrum and I get what I want. So let us avoid that and ensure that consequences must be dished out. Recognize their emotion and allow them to calm down. Now, when we are talking about all of this, it is not possible for us to reason out with our children when they are experiencing an emotional high. When the emotion is intense, you don't think, the rational brain stops functioning, right? The amygdala hijack, as we say it, right? So, this little tiny amygdala is a part of your brain which is responsible for emotional reactions. And when the amygdala fires, there is a shutter that goes down between the feeling brain and the rational brain. Okay, and therefore it is important for us to calm them down. And how to calm a child down who is in the middle of a tantrum? Get down to their eye level, hold their hand gently, call their name, and then name the emotion that they are experiencing. Oh, Debasmita, I can see you're very upset with me. Will instantly help Debasmita identify her emotion, connect to it, and then probably you can say, we will talk when you are a little more calm. When you feel calm, we are going to talk, and not talk at that time, right? So that is something that we can remember.
That's a very good one, Anagha, leveling with the child and acknowledging how they're feeling. And there's a question that I think ties into that, and I'll share that with you. So this is coming from a father of a teenage daughter who says that, to see the daughter cry or be upset about something is difficult for the father to handle, and he doesn't know what to say, how to respond to that. And I have, a question that ties into this question is that I have seen adolescents, let's say in the 17, 18 years of age range, who have missed a very, important chunk of their life, their junior college years or the end of school. And there is this sense of sadness, despondency at having lost this time, which will never come back to them. Those precious years which we look back at and are so fond memories, they don't have memories. It's blank for them. So there is this deep sadness that has come out of that. Sometimes even for children who find it a little difficult to make friends, they've actually finished school without having meaningful friendships. because maybe they were in 8th when pandemic set in, and then they gave their boards, and now school's over and you have just lost touch. So you have no friends from school. So all of these things lead to emotional upsets and other things as well. But how to help a child when they're going through that, when they're crying, or especially if it's an older child, like a 16-17-year-old who's having a breakdown because of some of these reasons. How do we help them out?
So the first thing I would want to tell parents is, in case of older children, when they cry, there's no reason to panic, right? Crying is a behavior which comes out because of certain big emotions. There is grief. There is a sad feeling of having lost out on so many time. There's so much time. There is grief that I could not do what everyone else could do, and I was so looking forward to it, right? So the first thing for parents is to not panic. It's all right for your child to cry. In fact, you're the luckier one if your child is crying and expressing, because there are many other children who don't know how to express their emotions and they bottle it all up. So if your child is crying and you see that, it's a great opportunity to connect emotionally to your child, right? And then there are two things that we can do: empathize and ask. Ask, how can I help you? Ask, what can I do to make you feel better? Ask your children these questions. And when I say emotional connection, it is all there on the next slide. Stay connected emotionally. It is important for us to be there for them at that point of time. If you are at work and your child is crying to you over the phone, come back as soon as you can. Make your child the priority for that particular day, because that will, make the child feel that you're available. And when you do that, when you hear them out, do not underrate their feelings. You will be very tempted to say, it has happened to everyone. The whole world was locked down for 2 years. So why are you making a big deal out of it? Oh, it's just a toy. It might be just a toy for you. Oh, your friend didn't call you for his birthday party. It's all right. It may be all right for you, but it might mean the world to your child. So do not underrate their feelings. Say, I can imagine you must be feeling devastated, right? Do not deny them their emotions. They are not going to be able to live their life without crying, even as adults. I'm sure as adults, even as psychologists, me, Debasmita, we all have our bad days and we break down. Don't we, Debasmita? Right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so it's all right. Crying is a behavior which exhibits, which is a cathartic, action, which releases your pent up emotions. So if your child is crying, you're the lucky one. That opportunity is there for you to say, I can see you're very upset about something. Can I help you with it? What
Mm.
can I do? And if you feel you're not able to make that headway, take your child, offer them help. Do you want to see someone whom you can
Mm-hmm.
speak to? Would you want to speak to a counselor? It's all right to speak to an emotional coach. Would you want me to take you to someone where you will be able to talk? Maybe they're not comfortable talking with you everything. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they'll just say yes and say, yes, I want to go and see someone. So
Absolutely.
that is the kind of reaction you can have for a child who's much older and is crying. Be their emotional coach. Yes, Devasmita.
I think, I just thought I'll share one of the most alarming responses to me was when my son, who's in his early teens now, said, Mama, you won't understand. So I don't want to tell you. And in my head is like, for a second, I was like, really, I won't understand. But, and it came as a huge shock to me because he's always been open. He's always been willing to talk. But it took a while to wrap my head around the idea that me being the mother, he may be more comfortable talking to somebody else about it. There was so much resistance from me. I'm a mother. On top of that, I'm a psychologist. So I was like, how is this happening to me? But
Right.
so there's that ego, that pride that sets in sometimes that, I'm the mother. What is it that you won't understand? I went through the same things. But it took me a while to park that and say that, okay, who do you want to talk
Right. Right.
to? Right. But that really helped eventually.
Yeah.
So,
Correct.
yeah.
So I think that is also very important because we take these things subconsciously as rejection from our children. And what they are trying to tell us is not rejection, but maybe they are not comfortable, maybe they are not ready yet. And it's all right for them to not be, telling you everything, so long as you have a nice, trusting relationship with each other. And therefore, it is important for us to, be their emotional coach. Show them how we deal with our anger, show them how we deal with our disappointments, talk about that openly in the house. Today this happened at the office, I was yelled at and I was so miserable about it, so that they know how to react when they go through those situations. Because remember, children don't listen, they imitate you. They
Absolutely.
are watching you all the time. Be
Hmm.
scared that they are watching you, so that you model the right kind of behavior for them.
True.
And
There is a question
understand
along
the
those lines. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, understand the feelings behind their behavior, because any behavior that parents perceive to be misbehavior or undesirable behavior comes from something, some emotion that they're not able to handle. Go ahead. I was.
Mm. Right. So I think there was a question that ties into what you were just saying, Anagha. So, I feel sometimes parents don't share their struggles at all with children. So the child feels very isolated in his struggles, where he or she might think that I am having such a difficult time dealing with this change of routine. Everybody
Right.
else seems to be going about it effortlessly.
Right.
And then there's the other extreme where parents overshare. I feel,
Right.
they share their vulnerability so much that it can be scary for the child, or it can be too much
Sure it is.
information for the child to handle. Often when there is an interpersonal conflict, let's say between the two parents, and one of them is upset, it's very tempting to share with whoever's there in front of you. And if you have a 16, 17-year-old, adolescent child who's willing to listen, or, volunteers to listen, it might be tempting to share. So my question here would be, how to decide, because on one hand, we're saying sharing is good. And then on the other hand, we know that, sometimes too much information is not great. So how does a parent decide?
Yeah. So, in case of information, give information that is age appropriate, and give information when questions come.
Mm-hmm.
That is one. The other thing is how much to share. Share about your real struggles and share about your solutions and your journey.
Right.
Do not tell your children that हमारे टाइम पे तो ये भी नहीं था. But that's not your child's problem. If you all didn't have phones and in your age, it's not your child's problem, right? So that kind of sharing doesn't help. It only creates a little resentment in the children.
Mm-hmm.
uh, how much to share? Share what is real. Speak about the real topics today. Speak about something that your child is going to face in the future. Don't raise them up in a utopic world that everything is fine and we are there for you all the time. The child has to be exposed to the real situations. Talk about the crimes and other things that are happening around in the country as per your child's age. Give them age appropriate facts. Take them from the known to the unknown, so that they are able to think on their own. They are able to understand that yes, there are underprivileged people around. I am much more privileged, but there might be other children who don't have what I have today. So that will also give them a lesson in resilience and gratitude.
Mm,
And all
that's a
those
good one.
shouldn't be preachy.
Right.
Share stories from your journey. Don't
Mm-hmm.
share, don't preach them. And then
Mm-hmm.
they will be
Right.
more receptive.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say again is be very real, be authentic in what you are sharing. Also share solutions, and overall infuse it with hope in a way that you're not burdening the child with your problem, but you're sharing something that happened with them.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And having said that, I would also like to say that it's not easy. It's a very tightrope walk. You don't know
True.
how much is enough, and you don't know how much is going to be more and how much less is going to be less. So it is, your own instinct, because every child is also unique. But trust your instinct, because you know your children much better than anyone else in the world. But you've also got to teach your children anything at home, so that they don't learn it the hard way when they go out, when they step out of your protective systems, right?
To
Having
have
said
the
that,
difficult conversations at home first, right?
yes,
And let them have
absolutely
that with you first. That's a
right.
good one. I just wanted to remind you, Ananga, we do have a few questions that have come in, and we have about 10 minutes.
All right.
I know it's not nearly enough time to talk about these things, but this is a series. We'll come back every Friday. So
Yes, we hope, yes. So, having said that, let us just skim through whatever we have spoken till now. Have realistic expectations. Do not expect over the board. Involve your children in a household chore every day so that you instill a sense of responsibility in them. They should be able to do that without reminders. Ensure spending quality time with your children. That quality time could range anything between 30 minutes to 45 minutes per day, ideally. If not, at least in intervals. Have designated family routines, rituals, or times. Dinner time is family time. Every Saturday, we go out, have a dinner at a particular place, and keep your phones away. Have that as a gadget free time, and offer help with academics. Please understand that there might be learning gaps after these 2 years of online education. um, some tips to execute this, we all know the theory. How to put it into practice is: use desirable tasks as reinforcements. Screen time, video game time, outdoor time, swimming time can be used as desirable, as reinforcements, so they get it when they do something consistently. Cut down on desirable tasks as negative reinforcement. Give your children negative reinforcement by removing something from their day which they really look forward to. Okay, if they don't follow the routine that you have put in place for them, teach them consistency, make them earn what they want, right? That will instill a sense of responsibility versus a sense of entitlement in our children. And ensure that these reinforcements and negative reinforcements and positive reinforcements do not become a bribe. They don't become a system where you do this, I give you this, you do that, I give you that. We don't mean that. If a particular thing is followed consistently, then we reward our children for their tiny wins and successes. We emphasize the efforts, and when routines are not followed, we dish out the consequences, which are negative reinforcements.
I think
And
that's
that
also a very astute point to bring out, that we reward them, we don't bribe them. And that can become, again, a difficult line to straddle for parents sometimes, but you just to have that intent very clearly in your mind is helpful.
So, to make that intent even more clearer, what you can do is enumerate what your child's responsibility is
Right,
as a child.
right.
So, their
Mm-hmm,
responsibility as a child is to do their homework, go to school on time, ensure that their notes are complete. So
mm-hmm,
then, I sometimes see parents who say that I just, bought him a gaming keyboard or a gaming mouse because he completed his notes. No, that's not reward.
hmm,
Rewards are for achievements. Achievements are something that you do, out of the way and do. But
right.
these things like making your bed, putting your clothes in the laundry, ensuring that your dress is ironed, packing your own school bag,
Right.
finishing your notes, these are your responsibilities. You jolly well do it. Because I cannot get up on a day and say I'm I don't want to cook, or I don't want to go to work, or that luxury is not there to anyone in life. And it
Mm-hmm.
should not be to your children, because that is going to cripple them and not really help them thrive.
Very true. Very true. Also, I love this saying. I think this just sets so many things in perspective. But I do want to go back a little bit to the, help them with their academics bit, because there are a few questions that have come in on that. One being that some children have lost the interest to study, because academics were sort of taken a little casually during the pandemic, where we told people that it's all right, your child's going through a lot, even if they're not studying or they're not writing or whatever, it's okay. Assessments were MCQs, and it was a breeze for all of them. So now that they have to go back to it, maybe it's daunting. Maybe it's somehow we have managed to reduce the importance of it, so they don't want to do it. I have heard where children are saying that nahi karna bas, man nahi lag raha. That's it. And another question along with this is that when they compare their results with their peers, if they are doing much better, then that becomes a discouragement. That they are doing it so much better, and I'm not able to, so I don't even want to.
Right. So, one thing is how to handle disinterest. Yes, there is disinterest. There is extreme reluctance to writing these days. And that was
Absolutely.
there previous to the pandemic also. And it has intensified in these last 2 years. But I think what we need to tell them is writing is not per se writing. When you write, when you imagine creatively, there are a lot of other processes, higher order thinking processes going on in your brain, which are important for your overall growth and development. And you're gonna have to write applications, you have to write essays for your higher studies and this and that. These are the fact based
Mm-hmm.
things that
Mm-hmm.
reason
Mm-hmm.
out children who are, receptive to that particular data at that particular point of time. But for children who are even more disinterested, understanding what is making them not motivated will help.
Mm-hmm.
And if that
Mm-hmm.
also doesn't help, maybe you should see someone who can break through and understand where the
Right.
disinterest and not motivation is, that non-motivated attitude is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as far as comparison is concerned, I think if parents start comparing their child's performance to their child's previous performance,
Mm-hmm.
this whole problem will get solved.
Right.
So it is not about whether you're doing better than someone else. It is about
Mm-hmm.
how much improvement you are showing, because that
Yeah.
is your true progress.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sometimes
in
the
that,
other
have
way around.
realistic expectations.
Hmm. The other way around is also seen, when the child was doing better before the pandemic, but now they aren't. And that becomes a point of discussion that, oh, you were coming first, or you were, getting such and such grades earlier. Why can't you do it now? You just have to study a little more or work a little harder. And
So again, there is a very subtle line between, is the child really not doing very well, or is that gap of 5 to 10 marks creating
mhm,
a lot of insecurity in the parent?
mhm,
What is it?
right, right.
It also happens, we get very anxious when our child's performance drop. Oh, he was doing so much better, now he's just not doing. And just not doing actually translates to only 5 marks per subject, which is
Mm,
possible because of some conceptual learning gap, or it is possible because of writing gap, or it is possible because the child is not used to write so much and he just left out the remaining part of the question.
right,
uh,
right.
so it's always good
But
to talk to your
even
children about
just maybe because of the
bettering their own
stress of
performance.
transition, right? Like when they are, let's say, going through a phase of transition, maybe just that discomfort and stress is causing a temporary dip in performance.
Absolutely, yes,
Right.
definitely. So there are
Mm-hmm.
many factors to it, no? They are not used to writing. They are not used to writing like this.
Mm-hmm.
MCQs are very different. Subjective answers are very different. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that, the teacher walking up and down the aisle, and the timing and the performance, finish the paper before that particular time. All of that is a little. They would have gradually see at, if a child is in standard 5, he is expected to write about 4 lines, and a child
Mm-hmm.
in standard 7 is expected to write almost double. And that
Exactly.
transition has not happened because the last 2 years were online. So I
True.
think we must also have realistic expectations based on the situation, based on the teacher, based on the school expectations, and based on your own child's abilities.
Mm, right. That's very well put, Anagha. I think a few things that stand out for me are for parents to monitor their own expectations. What is it that is happening to them when they see their child maybe not performing academically as well as they were before? Because it is normal to feel worried. It's normal to feel anxious about it, and then that sort of translates into behavior, into how we present this problem to them in comparison. So our own behaviors
Hmm.
have a large role to play in how our children are going to deal with returning to school or dealing with any transition. I think this is a prototype for life, right? It's like sort of a trial ground under
Yes.
support, right? A simulation of sorts. And I feel so. There's another question that says that children nowadays seem to be complaining a lot more. Um, uh, like earlier they would go to school, come back, but now they seem a lot more exhausted when they come back from school. They're complaining about the heat, about the food, about this, about that. I think there's also a certain comfort that they had at home, which they have gotten used to. And
Yes.
now the hustle of going back to school or whatever it is, the experience which is hustle like for them is something that brings a lot of discomfort, and they don't want to tolerate it, right? So it ends up in like constant complaints, not wanting to go out, not wanting to go to school even for some kids.
Yeah.
So
So,
that is difficult. Yeah.
correct. So change is always hard and transition should be given time. These are the
Mm-hmm.
things that I would like to put forth first. And then I would want to ask you, so what if the child complains? Isn't the heat really too much?
Mm-hmm.
When the
Mm-hmm.
child complains, we perceive it, oh, he does not want to go to school. Probably that's not what the child is saying. A
Mm-hmm.
word of empathy, oh, yeah, I can imagine the heat must have exhausted you. Would you like to have a shower before you come for lunch?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to rest or take a nap in the afternoon? Maybe that will reduce your tiredness.
Mm-hmm.
No, asking the child a question back and
Mm-hmm.
empathizing with the emotion that the child is feeling
Right.
is something that we must do rather
Mm-hmm.
than thinking, oh God, you are always complaining. Well, why not? If the child does not come back to you and complain, who else will the child go to? And when
Mm-hmm.
the children sit quietly, we complain, you never talk to me. You're back from school and you're not telling me anything. So,
True.
this is our anxiety, this is our
Mm.
insecurity, which sometimes we project on our children. But it's all right for them to complain. It's all right for them to come home and say, I had a bad day. And it's an opportunity
Mm.
for you to optimize on. It's an opportunity
True.
for you to teach them that things may not be pleasant always. And
Mm.
not a bed of roses. And there might be these struggles that they will have to face day in and day out. And make
Mm.
them ready for the world that they have to face.
Absolutely. I feel like we're coming back again to the idea that, gently acknowledging what they're going through and constantly sort of nudging them towards solutions, nudging them towards what can be done, eventually helps build resilience and tolerance,
Absolutely. And
right?
resilience, tolerance, gratitude
So
are
true.
such important life lessons,
Mm.
because they will see you through most of the crisis.
True. But I loved it when you said, why not? I mean, just look at the amount of complaining we are doing about returning to work and the
Yeah.
heat and everything, right? So what's so wrong about children complaining? But I think,
It
yeah,
is also about, gently redirecting them to
right.
see the blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
reminding them 2 years ago when we were made to sit at home, we were so, restless about it, and we always looked forward to going to school. Now that you're going to school, there are a few cons, but there are
Mm-hmm.
some pros also.
Right.
Gently guide them, empathize,
Mm-hmm.
understand their emotion, listen to them, and then
Mm-hmm.
gently redirect them to some positives of the same situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this 1 hour, and some really, really important concepts have sort of been reiterated. One, the last one that's sort of primary on my mind right now is that children are watching you.
Yes.
So watch what you are doing. No matter what you say, they'll still do what you are doing, right? That's like a big one. And then just going a little easy, allowing your expectations also to be tempered a little bit, because they are going through a phase of transition which will lead to some amount of distress and discomfort. But focusing on some of the positives, focusing on some of the things that they can be grateful for, and I think holding space for whatever it is that they're going through, right?
True.
And not the least, but when you feel that your child is in distress and it's not something that, just conversations with you can help, or maybe if the child does not, in case of an older adolescent, they don't want to talk to you, do seek professional help and try not to look at it as rejection, right?
Correct. Correct.
I think those are some really, really wonderful ideas. And on that note, I just want to let our audience know that this is a series, again, that we've put together. We're going to come back every week with a new topic revolving around the theme of adolescent emotional well-being and parenting. And for anyone who attends these sessions, you can avail 4 counseling sessions from our panel of expert psychologists at Manah. So,
Devasmita,
right,
I would like to round this up with a few things, 2 points.
sure. Mhm.
One is, uh, having said all that we have said in this session, I would want to empathize with the parents also, because parenting is a tightrope walk,
Mhm.
and it's all right for you guys to be non-perfect. That is number one. Number two, you will be able to address your children, manage their emotions, and do everything that we've asked you to do or suggested you to do only when you have cared for yourself enough. So,
Mm,
self care is very important. And if
absolutely.
you feel you're struggling, reach out to a parent coach and get help. I'm sure Manah has parent coaches as well. So they will
Absolutely.
help you out there. And the last thing is never talk to your child when you're angry and hungry. So that will put you on a better footage to talk to them and interact with them, have meaningful conversations. And that's it from my end. Thank you so much, Mana and Devismita, for this wonderful opportunity. And I hope parents who listen to this will benefit and have at least one takeaway from our session today.
I'm sure they will. For everyone watching, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the questions. I think questions really help enrich these conversations. And just reminding you that we'll be back every Friday with a new topic, a different speaker, and anyone attending these sessions can avail for free counseling sessions with our psychologists. On that note, let's close for today. Have a wonderful weekend ahead, and thank you so much.